Greetings. I always say the same thing, so I can't say it again. Greetings, Harvest Church. Welcome. If you're a first-time guest, my name is Mike, and you saw a video just now here or at any of our campuses. If you're at the jail, you saw a video of Fred too, I think. Could you guys read the spines on the books behind that fine pastor? Did you notice Dracula is back there? I just want you to know we didn't teach him that. I don't know what they're teaching at that church over there, but wear a scarf. That's all I can say if you go visit. At Harvest, we exist to increase the health and size of God's church everywhere. That's a statement that I never stop getting motivated by. But did you know that there's three corollaries to that? We have a corollary statement. And some of you might know it, but probably most of you don't. How do you narrow a big focus of creating healthy churches, or trying to? The Lord does the work. The answer is you have to bring it down to a sharp, focused, practical point. And so no matter what else we're doing, our goal is to make disciples who do three things. And this is the corollary statement. We make healthy churches by making disciples who do three things. And more on this next week. But for now, the three things are: 1, walk with God; 2, love one another; 3, seek the lost. Because we figure we can get everything in the Bible into those categories. The first one, you have to walk with God. You have to know God. In fact, God's Christmas name is Emmanuel, which means God with us. In John chapter 1, it said God, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And that word dwelt is actually a verb form of the word tent. Now, we don't have a verb form of tent. So it's actually saying the word of that Jesus came and tented among us. There's nothing more intimate than going on a camping trip with Jesus. I mean, he's got his tent, you got your tent, and whatnot. And he didn't come here to be a professor. He didn't come here so he could give lectures on YouTube so you can, or maybe you go and take classes with him and get a degree. He came to be our friend, your friend, my friend. In fact, at the Last Supper, one of the things he said, according to the end of John, is, I no longer call you servants, now I call you my friends. He walks with us. And learning to walk with Christ is our lifelong goal, and we want to help others learn to do that. Jesus teaches us in John 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. A very simple metaphor. It's really hard to get grapes off a vine if you've cut the branches off. Any branch says, I'm going out on my own, I don't need you, Jesus. It's not going to produce any grapes. So that's the first third of a disciple. He needs to learn to walk with God as a lifelong pattern. Second is love one another. Now, love is an action verb. It's also a noun, but here it's used as a verb, and it's a command from Christ. Love one another. There are at least 23 reciprocal commands. By the way, reciprocal is a word I've used a long time, but right now, politically, our whole country is saying that. Some of you may know that. But so now you know what it means. It's a reciprocal command. You do it, I do it. Love one another within the church is our constant task, each part building up the other so that the church is building itself up in love, says Ephesians. In John 13, Jesus also at the Last Supper, like the last one, said, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you. And that's a very high standard of love. It's higher than the standard of love we had before we got saved. The standard of love we had before we got saved was we love one another as long as it seems to pay off for me. And that, I don't condemn anyone for having that standard who doesn't have Christ. That's how it works. We are in a relationship until I decide you hurt me too much, or I don't like you, or you're ugly, or you're dumb, or you vote the wrong way, or you're too old, or you're too ugly, or you don't have enough money, and doggone it, why don't you quit playing video games and get a job? Well, I'm going to leave you for another man. All those things go into love, right? And Jesus said, no, love like I loved. Well, how did you love? While we were yet sinners. We were yet sinners. That's a big challenge. Well, good news is he gives us a lifetime to work on it. So you can make lots of mistakes, but the disciple is one who learns to never give up on his people. And that's love. It's our constant task. He says, by this all men will know that you're my disciples if you have love for one another. Seeing Fred, the disciple of Dracula, on that, all I can think of is how I love him. I just love him. I see a friend, even though I don't get to see him much. If you work together and you don't have that relationship in a church, if you attend and you're not building those relationships, then we're failing at making disciples, because disciples love one another. Third, seek the lost. This is what keeps us from being us for and no more. This is the heart of our shepherd. So number 3, for those of you who are just waking up, because sometimes you come into the church and you don't even realize the preacher's speaking anything coherent till about now, when I'm 5 minutes in, and you're just waking up. Just forget what I said before. It ain't going to fit for you. But for those of you who take notes or pay attention, the whole sermon is going to be on seek the lost, right? We exist to increase the health and size of God's church everywhere. We do that by making disciples who walk with God, 1, love one another, 2, and the whole sermon is going to be on number 3, seek the lost. So that's where it sits in context. Matthew 9:35-38. Matthew 9 is our text. If you have your electronic Bible, please open it up. If you have your paper Bible, open it up. If you've memorized Matthew, turn to there in your mind. Matthew 9:35. Jesus was going through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. Now, when we get back to our Luke series and finish out that book, which will take a while, those of you who've been here, you've known that this is the pattern of how Jesus does ministry that Luke has established over and over and over. He's an itinerant preacher. He goes village to village, and he does the same thing, and in all likelihood gives the same message. Like the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John get their stories from his tour, his world tour. He's on the road, telling stories in town to town, and no doubt many of the exact same stories. He goes and he preaches the gospel, and he goes right to where the religious people are, the synagogue, and then he goes in the streets, he goes in the homes, and everyone wants to come bring him their sick people because they know he's going to display the power of the kingdom, which will confirm his words by healing them. Then verse 36. Seeing the people, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited like sheep without a shepherd. We're going to sit right here in verse 36 for the better part of the sermon. Seeing the people who are coming because they're sick. Every church does prayer requests that I know of. That's godly. You pray. If you don't pray, what kind of a church are you? In most of your church, some people have said cynically, it's like an organ recital. Because all the requests are for, I've had a heart attack, my lungs, my kidney, my stomach, I'm having indigestion. They're all for your health. And every once in a while, someone will say, why don't we pray for something spiritual instead? Jesus wasn't like that. He knew what we're like. If we're not feeling good, it hits us at the first level of need, and we run to God. And he doesn't reject that, and nor should we. We should pray for every elbow and every spleen. And that's what he did. But here we get insight into what he was feeling. He felt compassion for them. Now, these are just the crowds, the people. The mob. They're not, let's call what we would call committed disciples of Christ. And some of them will be, and no doubt many of them will not be. But at this moment, they're needy. And they're running to him because they have a need. And it makes him feel the good kind of pity, not the bad kind of pity. He cares for their situation. He has this heart that says, I wish you weren't in this situation. I don't know if he says that, but that's the feeling we have, right? We have compassion on someone. And the reason why, he says, is because they were distressed and dispirited. Now, distressed and dispirited, that is what we call alliteration. Almost said illumination. Alliteration, this is from your literature class in junior high. Alliteration is when you use that same letter over and over to make a point, rhetorically, right? And many pastors like to do that. 3 points, and they all start with C. And here, it's D and D. They are distressed and dispirited. And I thought, he didn't speak English. Why would the translator go to the trouble of doing alliteration here? In other words, it's Greek. Alliterations don't translate. That's what I'm getting at, because they have different words. He said distress. So then I looked it up in the ESV. You know what it is in the ESV, the English Standard Version? Helpless and harassed. So I thought, he's doing it too. All these people just getting cute in the middle of Matthew. Just translate the doggone words. So we got distressed. So I looked at the New Century Version. Hurting and helpless. I'm like, these people. So I looked at the Christian Standard Bible. It's distressed and dejected. I'm like, they're all doing it. What I didn't find, the one that came to my mind was, why not just go with bullied and beaten? That was mine. So I looked up the Greek, and so I'm going to drop some Greek on you. 2 words that none of us know what the meaning are, including me, if I don't look them up. But you will understand how they sound. If you transliterate them into English letters, they both start with E, and they both sound the same. Eskilmeni and Erimmenoi. Eskilmenoi and Erimmenoi. They're hard words because Greeks don't talk right like Americans do, so they use funny words. But they both start with E, and they both end with the sound monoi. So what these translators are showing us is when Matthew wrote this down, he purposely put in this alliteration. It's almost like he's drawing attention to how these people felt. They were distressed. They were dispirited. Why? Because they're spiritually lost people, right? He says they're like sheep without a shepherd. They are lost. We say people are either saved or lost, found or lost. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. I once was lost, but now I'm found. And you don't think much. Lost is you lose your way on a map. But that is not the same as spiritually lost. To be spiritually lost is to be intellectually lost. Your mind is engaged. Your emotions are engaged. To be physically lost isn't near as bad. Because physically, you're not intellectually. Your brain eventually hits, I'm lost. And it starts to seek solutions. But if you're spiritually lost, you don't even know where to look. Why were they spiritually lost? Well, their teachers were blind guides. Most of their Pharisees, not all of them, were faithless men who were very proud of themselves for being better than the other people. And they loved the esteem and the power and the prestige it brought them. And they sit there and they constantly were telling the other guys, you're not doing religion right, and yelling at them because of all these laws. The Romans were oppressing them. Whenever they could, they'd tax them. And they'd send turncoat Jews to steal from that amount. Then Satan is deceiving them. Sin is ravaging them. Because sin is not a neutral thing. It's fun going down. But when it hits the stomach, you know what I'm saying? It's fun for a while till you're hooked on whatever, till you're destroying yourself and other people's emotions. Jesus sees them coming. It's much more than just their sickness he's seeing. They're helpless, and they can't fight back. So here's God. He makes the people, and he loves the people, fallen or not, and he comes and becomes one of us, and he's, as one of us, he goes, he could probably say, I don't know if he would, I'm glad I don't feel like these people do. I don't know if he would. I might, if I was him. And humans, here's something that a lot of people like to hear. Humans are sheep. Let that revelation sink in. God considers humans to be sheep or like goats. Right? Sheep. Sheep. How are humans like sheep? Now, a lot of people get insulted if you say that. I'm not a sheep. I'm my own man. I'm captain of my own soul. Yeah, well, for that, I refer you to Bob Dylan, who said, You got to serve somebody. It may be the devil, it may be the Lord, but you're going to serve somebody. What kind of shepherding does a human need? If I'm what was it? Distressed and dispirited, I'm like a sheep without a shepherd. That could be almost, you need godly parents, a man and a woman who are godly and self-controlled and mature, and none of them are perfect, but doggone it, if you're going to grow up and have a good shot at this life, if they're at least halfway decent. Not everyone has that. You need protection. You need training. Human beings, they need it. They're not like horses that come out ready to walk, and after it doesn't take them long, they're hopping around. Next thing you know, they're on their own. They need spiritual instruction. You can go to your college, you can go to your school, but if you ain't got Jesus, you're an educated fool. I didn't write that, but that's some fine prose right there. They need someone to lead them to Jesus. Do you ever notice that God's best men are always shepherds? When you start with Abraham, and you got to start with Abraham. I guess you could start with Noah. He's kind of a zookeeper. I guess you could start with Abel. He kept animals. He was a good guy. Then Noah kind of kept a whole boatload of them. But then when you get to shepherd, watching actual sheep, it's a different thing than taking care of all the animals. Like, I don't think, you fall in love with the little baby sheepies, I guess. I don't know. Abraham was a shepherd. Isaac was a shepherd. Jacob. These are, if you don't know who they are, they're the big shots of the Bible. They're the big shots of the Jews. Joseph was a shepherd. Brought all the brothers into Egypt. They were all shepherds. 400 years later, who took them out? Moses. What did he do for a living? Shepherd. Then finally, they got a good king. Their only really good king, David. What did he do? He sat around writing the 23rd Psalm because he liked sheep. Why does he do that? Jesus, people say, why did he call Jesus a shepherd? Well, he was joining the Jerusalem Shepherds Local 451. It's what everyone who's close to God does for a living. He's like, when he arrived in John 10, he says, I am the good shepherd. He picks a spiritual vocation. When you see me, think of me as a shepherd. And he says, I'm not just any shepherd, I'm a good one. A good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Now, I don't know much about sheep, so I looked up a video. No kidding. I threw in some of those alliterated words, and I added sheep, and I got some PETA videos. It's true. And I tell you, I was ready to join the club. I was watching these sheep getting sheared, and the sheep are so, nice. They're like, hey, I'm a sheep. And there were people who you could tell were just childish men, losing their temper, cussing at them, punching them in the face, kicking them. And the sheep was like, what did I do? And it broke my heart a little bit. Now, if there had been tiny sheep that I'd raised, at the end, of course, Peter's solution was, and the way to fix this is don't wear wool. And I think, Peter, this is why if you're not a Christian, you may have a good heart, but you always end up at a stupid place. How about just be nice to the sheep when you shear them, okay? Wool is warm. But I do keep dogs. I like my dogs. Sometimes, there's some people like all dogs. That ain't me. I don't always like your dog. I generally like your dog, but it's got to hit certain qualifications, right? But I always love my dogs. I know it's not a sheep. They're not as helpless, but they're kind of helpless. I never want to hurt my dogs, right? And one time when I was younger, I won't say when, I had a dog, it's generations of dogs ago. It stole my fried chicken, and there's one thing you don't want to get between me, and especially when I was younger, is me and my fried chicken. I had a whole big breast, and it was made right. It was still moist and had all that salty oily stuff, you know, good stuff, right? And he comes up, he grabs it, and he runs away. And I got to tell you, this is true confession, but it was a long time ago, and that dog has gone off to doggy heaven for other reasons. I kicked it in anger, and it cried. And I felt this big. I was like sucking up to the dog. Here's another piece of chicken. I felt horrible. I got dogs today. I take pride in the fact that they're happy dogs. Now, they might be happier at your house, but they're happy enough. One thing I do know about dogs is they have nothing to say about their condition. If I don't feed them for 2 or 3 days, not saying I do that, but even they need a spiritual fast to pray. If I don't feed them, and I always feed them, but I'm serious, if you miss a day, they don't even complain. They're like, okay, guess I'm not eating. They're completely helpless. So I'm telling you all that because I'm speaking to your emotions. And I'm not doing it to trick you. I'm telling you right out. I was thinking, helpless and harassed like sheep without a shepherd. The sheep doesn't do it to me, but dogs do. And so we went to India. I've been to India several times, thank the Lord. Thanks this church. I don't go there to vacation. If you do go to vacation in India, it won't be a vacation, just to let you know. No one goes there to vacation. All the Patels go to Pittsburgh to get away from there, trust me. And be your doctor. But every time I'm there, it's the dogs that amaze me. And I know some of you people in this church love dogs so much. I literally said in my head someone's name from the church, and I said, she could never come to India because she couldn't handle these dogs. Because they just have dogs everywhere, wild dogs everywhere. They don't do anything about the dogs. They're just wild. And when I saw helpless and harassed like sheep without a shepherd, I thought of them dogs. Because they are everywhere. And they are all beaten. They are beaten. They're dogs with broken spirits. If they put up too much of a fight around humans, they're killed instantly. Whenever they go near houses, people will throw rocks at them. Some people have domestic dogs. And they won't do that. But if any one of them dogs comes, they throw rocks at them. They cuss at them in an Indian language that I don't even know. And a lot of these dogs are nasty. 3 legs, ears. I'm not kidding you. It's sad. It's sad. And they might as well not even be there. They fend for themselves. There's a pecking order among them. They're always looking for food. And a bigger dog will come and beat you up and take your food and leave blood behind if he has to. It's pathetic. And whenever one of them, if I can get them to come near me, I'll pet those dogs. And if there's an Indian nearby, Indian who's our friends, they'll say, no, don't touch that dog, because they won't touch them. They're like, they got diseases, they're dirty, they got bugs. But I just can't help it. I just can't help it. And one thing I do know is this. I talk to them too, by the way. It only takes one look at those dogs to see the difference between them and a domestic dog a few feet away. When Jesus looked at people, it only took him a moment to know the ones that had no shepherd. He sees things we don't see. And his heart overflowed with compassion. Christian, once that bullied sheep was probably you. What did it take to rescue you? One look. He's like, he didn't say that with the apostles. He didn't say it with his buddies traveling around with him. What did it take to rescue him? What's it going to take to rescue a dog in India? Forget it. That's why you can't take a dog lover, that one of these people who seriously takes it in every stray. Don't even go. You're not going to be able to take it. Because there's nothing you can do. You're helpless. Well, you know what it took. To rescue these people, he's got to go to a cross to die for their sins. He's got to raise from the dead. I'm cutting out the whole part where he as God had to become a man. He's got to send someone to them to bring them the gospel of himself. They have to believe, and he sends the Holy Spirit. And now they went from being stray dogs, helpless and harassed, to sheep with a home. When Jesus Christ gets hold of you, when he got hold of you, what did he do? He took you as if you're a mangy, spiritually covered with mange dog. You were beaten, and there was nothing. One thing I knew about them sheep watching, there was nothing they could do. Nothing. It wouldn't occur to their sheep brains. I'm not saying you got to watch these videos. It's not fun. But if you see someone beat a sheep, you can understand what the word helpless means. You think, I want to beat the men. What's wrong with you people? They're dumb. They're dumb. Just so they don't move fast enough, you kick them. What's wrong with you? They're just like, I'm a sheep, I'm dumb, I'm friendly, what do I do? I'll get you with my claws. They're like, just like I don't have any. There's nothing. God saves you. He heals you. He fixes your soul. He gives you a name. He gives you a family. So I guess the whole point of what I'm getting at here could be said this way. Jesus desires that you and I see through his eyes when we look at the world and see the people who are lost. Look what he says to his followers in verse 37. He said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. He said he's moved with compassion by the crowd. And he turns to his little group and he said, I can't take this. This is killing me. Look how many. Look how many. And all I got is you 12, and one of you's a bugger. He didn't say that. I said that. But that's it. That's the thinking. Look at all these people, and this is one village. You know what? The Bible's using a lot of metaphors, and I like that because metaphors carry oomph. Harvest is plentiful. We've moved from sheep to harvest. Now, I can't make you compassionate for an injured piece of wheat, and I wouldn't try. But I do know this about harvest. When harvest comes, it's urgent. It's urgent, right? You've waited for whatever that fruit or vegetable that you've got to pick or grain. You've waited for it to get to the point where you harvest it. And when it's time, each one of those plants has a window. None of them are forever. The only one you can wait on is cattle corn. You ever have sweet corn that they didn't pick in time? If you haven't, I was going to say get some. You will, if you ever do, you'll know it. You're like, I know this was sweet once, but it's like the water's like leaving it or something. You got a window of time to pick things. And that means urgency. If you don't, not only is your sustenance gone, but if you're going to sell it, it's gone. I need workers, and I need them right now. Go get, people have a lot of blueberries. They're good to have as friends because they won't cut them back enough because they're so proud of their blueberries. So when they come in, it kills them to think of the birds eating them and them rotting on the vine. So after they've made all the blueberry stuff they can make, they're like, come over to my house and pick blueberries. I'll come in a few weeks. You got to come now. Okay. There's an urgency. In AD 30, there was urgency. Sometimes I think when we think, you need harvesters, go train some up for a few decades and you can get some. He said, I need them now. My friends, there's almost 8 billion people on the earth. When I was born, there was just about 3 billion people on the earth. In one lifetime, there's been more people born and lived than has ever been born and lived up to that moment. And Satan is pushing them around. And they're beaten. And they don't know where to go. They beat one another. What do you see when you see the lost? When you see I got to talk in some innuendo in case any kids are listening, but if you, and I see it on X, maybe you see it on Instagram, you see girls who are helpless and harassed, beaten by peer pressure and self-consciousness to think that if I'm going to have a group of Reddit friends or whatever, they're all going to believe I'm really a boy. And then they post pictures of themselves without a shirt on after they've had surgery because they're proud of that. But you look in their eyes. If you don't see helpless and harassed, if you see that as something to laugh at, oh, you're not seeing what Jesus sees. Satan is just beating these girls up. Look at Ellen Page. She was a little actress in the Juno movie, most pro-life movie that lost people ever put out. Now she's a boy, she thinks. I saw her recently. She's making the rounds. You might have seen her in social media talking about how happy she is to have removed her chest. I'm not kidding. But if anyone looking at you read the comments, everyone can see it. Her face says, I'm miserable. Where do I turn? I was a Hollywood star. That didn't do it. Beautiful, too. I'm being a boy, and I got to say, feels good. You look on her face, and Jesus looks, she is beaten and bullied, and she's lost intellectually. You can't say, well, fix it, girl. She can't. She's a sinner, and it's affected her thinking. What do you see when you see Palestinian children with guns and headbands saying, kill the Jews? From 5 years old, you're being lied to by Satan to hate people and kill people. Tren de Agua gang members. Yeah, I'm all for getting them out. You have to protect yourself. The government has a job to do. But once you get past that and you look in their eyes and see their faces, all those tats, they're sheep without a shepherd. And the world is beating them up, harassing them, using them up. Drunks at your local bar. People not at the bar, rushing after the American dream. Every Christian who goes to work should do his best. And he should try to succeed, because Christians should. But every Christian who does that knows there's a lot of people surrounding them that haven't got anything to live for except that competition. I got to get it. I got to get it. I got to achieve. I got to be better. Helpless and harassed. Distracted. What were all those words I used? I forgot. The harvest is plentiful now. I don't know what to say. The application of being a Christian is all easy stuff. It ain't hard. That's not good thing. I'm glad that shepherds are what we're shown, because there are people who work with animals who have to work much harder. Like them folks dealing with the killer whales and whatnot. You got to be sharp. Those zoologists, people wrestling alligators, a good cowboy. I don't know what you do, rustling them dogies or whatever they do with that. I can't ride a horse. But I saw those yo-yos beating up sheep, and I thought I could do the sheep thing. That sucker's dumb. He's dumber than my dumbest dog, and I've had some dumb dogs. And he's harmless. He ain't going to hurt you. What we do, I'm going to go get that harvest. How am I going to do it? I need to be an expert. I need to be a pro. I need to be a theologian. This guy's a great pastor who you saw in the video. Redemption is a great church. It's my second or third favorite. Of course, it ain't as good as Harvest, and I don't care what Fred says, but You know what their magic formula is? They give people coffee, they smile at them, they shake their hand. They go to their houses. They tell them, Jesus loves you. Raise your hand if you're too stupid to figure that out. I mean, the skills it takes to harvest, you don't even have to be healthy. There's a church building. I'm not going to say a church. There's a church building on every corner in every small town in western Pennsylvania. The fields are ripe unto harvest. Want those people? If you're an outsider, you think, well, you got lots of harvesters. They're not harvesting. They're not harvesting. Some of them are. I never want you to think we ever think, well, our church is better than your church. That has nothing to do with it. There's nothing to do with it. Some churches are healthy. Most churches are not, unfortunately. They're sitting on every corner, and they're not telling anybody anything. They're not harvesting anybody. Jesus gave another command. He gave the solution right here. He said, therefore, beseech. I don't know why the translator put beseech. It's pick on the translator's day. Although I admire the translators for that last one, it got my attention. But beseech, who says beseech? I think they're trying to avoid the literal meaning of the word they're translating because they don't want to give the wrong impression. This is a prayer request, Jesus says. The word is beg. It's outright beg. It's pleading as if you're desperate. Beg the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest. Beg. That's a command to the 12 and the other faithful disciples. There's probably dozens of them there, maybe 100 or so, and a lot of women named Mary. Women named Mary generally love Jesus more than other people in the Bible. I don't know why. He says, you people, ask God to send people to those people. And hopefully they did. Hopefully also that day they took care of it themselves because they were there. But when you're asking God, you keep saying, God, raise up theologians and church planners and pastors. Oh, Lord, please. You know how long it takes to perk? I wanted to preach from the day I got saved. I was almost 20 years old. And I'd go into a church. I knew nothing about the Bible. And what I did know, I learned from TV preachers just a week before. And I'd go into a church, and I'd want to be the guy preaching. I wasn't. And that's good, because I was an empty head. But I knew from then. It took 15 years, 14 years, before life beat me up enough, which is God's seminary, and I grew up enough to even start. If you're waiting on God raising up pastors and church planners to go harvest, you got it wrong. It's an easy job. Everyone at all our campuses and in the jail, if you're in the jail, I want you to listen to me. If you know Christ, you got helpless and harassed sheep around you. You don't need a degree. You need to know how to love folks. Well, know how to do that. That's why, Yes, you do. So whenever you're stumped, say, how would I like to be treated right now? And then do that. And tell them about the Jesus of the Bible who saved your soul. Invite them to your home. If you get tongue-tied, invite them to your church service. One of the reasons we always preach the cross at Harvest is because we know it's a spiritual battle to get the gospel to somebody. And it's good if you can come, bring your friends, and we'll tell them. And all you got to say afterwards is, what'd you think? Leave the results to God. As you know, we've begun this initiative called Missions 1-8. It's a 2-year, I'm going to give you numbers. It makes it easy to be confused. But it's a 2-year initiative. I get confused with numbers. And but we're kicking it off with a 6-week series. It was week 3. The goal of Mission 1-8 is to renew, revive, and resource our vision. By the way, this is not official. This is just me saying it the way I'd say it, because it's right. To renew, revive, and resource our vision to build the church of it, to build the health of his church right here at home. That's at home is every one of our campuses. If you're listening in Atlanta or in South Dakota, I know we got listeners in those places, Pittsburgh, or you're in jail. Get busy there, nearby places, and the ends of the earth. That means 2 things. One, you got to see the harvest. You got to see lost folks. You got to see them. They're those annoying people that you read about in the news. They're those annoying people who you hang out with all the time. And I'm not saying they're all annoying. They're the customers you wait on. They're the clerks who wait on you. They're your babysitters. They're parents. And second, you got to send out workers. That's it. That's it. I mean, talk about an entry-level job. This does not take much skill. It's much harder to be a barista at Starbucks or even to work the fries at McDonald's. Heck, even a president can do it. This is easier than that. Where do God's harvesters come from? Wouldn't it be funny if a church says, we're going to pray for God to send out harvesters, and they pray and pray and pray and pray and pray. God, send out harvesters. And they go, well, good prayer meeting, let's go home. And they don't do it. That's comical. We are the harvesters. So we pray our church grows, we get more harvesters. Well, how are you going to get a harvester if he doesn't go to your church? Well, first you go to a helpless and harassed lost person and say, hey, helpless and harassed lost person, get saved. You heathen swine. No, don't say that. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. And then once they're saved, you've got one. Doesn't he need years of training? Now, you'll probably mess them up with that. Teach them too much tradition, it'll mess them up. Send them out now. Go tell your friend, bring him. What comes to my mind is when I first moved to California with my wife, I'd been there a lot before, but my wife hadn't. So California was new to her as a young woman. Brought the family to California to make our fortune. Kind of like the Clampetts, if you know who those people are. We didn't go rich, though. We went po. And if you drive in San Diego County back then, you'd always see a bunch of Mexicans standing in a field across the street from stores and stuff. Mexican men just standing there. You'd see it all over the place. And I expected in the mornings. See them in the mornings. It's the only time. And I expected to see that, and I just kept going. Never occurred to me, my wife had no idea what they were doing there. So one day she says, I guess all those guys are waiting for the bus. And now some of you might think that's what they're doing there. But if everyone there knows that's not what they're waiting for. They're there to work. They're there to work. And they're waiting for a pickup truck, any pickup truck, to come and say, I need 4 of you. And they'll jump in, and they'll go do whatever that guy says all day long, get paid, and go back to wherever they came from. Now, I think immigration is important. I'm not trying to get political. I think it should be legal. I have nothing but respect for those men who came and worked hard and fed their family, though, whether legal or not. Nothing but respect. But I love the simplicity of the picture. 20 guys standing there, causing no trouble to anyone, just waiting for someone to come. I'm ready to go. How much should we yell at the shepherds of America? How much should I look in the mirror and yell at myself if we don't send workers into the harvest? I mean, you're not standing on a corner. You're kind of just sitting there staring at me, but hey, it's kind of the same thing. So our theme for the next 2 years is Acts 1:8. I'm not going to preach on it for 2 years, so you got to learn it now. You might as well memorize it. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you. The Holy Spirit is the power to work. And you shall be my witnesses, both in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria. That's here and near, and even to the remotest parts of the earth, far. This week, I only want to remind you of two things. One, we start now. Now, there's a financial component to this. But what good is that if we're not doing the work? What good is planting new buildings without harvesters in them? It just so happens that harvest is our name. That's just a happy coincidence here. I don't know where we got that. I guess we just wanted a name that if you Googled it, you'd see 10,000 churches with the same name and you'd be completely confused. I think that's why. But it sure fits right here. Sure fits right here. The fields are ripe right now. When does this start? It started today. When you see a lost person, you can't see what Jesus can see. You can't see the abuse that happened in that young man or that young woman or that old man or that old woman. You can't see the sins they've done, the burden they carry on their back with guilt. You can't see you can't see it. And they won't come up to you and say, hey, I'm distressed and dispirited. Like I don't do sheep, but I do dogs. And I have a true rescue dog. Now, I've been in Western Pennsylvania long enough to know this whole rescue dog thing is a racket. People like to say, oh, he's a rescue dog, as if you did something holy. Trust me, I'm onto your game. All you're saying is, he isn't named a doodle. That's all you're saying. He ain't got no pedigree. Because nobody rescued him. Somebody's mutt got into somebody else's mutt. Boom, they had 8 puppies. They put them on Craigslist as rescue dogs and gave you a rehoming fee of $500. They were fat and happy. You didn't rescue nothing. So can we get over with that? It's not a rescue. It's a mutt that you bought for $500. And I got one of those. I do. He's a mutt. They said it was a rescue. I went down to Pittsburgh. The nicest people. They never abused their puppies. They didn't get them off the street. He's a spoiled brat of a dog, and I love him, and nobody else does. Everyone in my family hates my dog but me. And I tried to train him to bite, but he's too nice. But I got a second dog is a rescue dog. Someone on Craigslist said, found dog in street, can't keep it. So I called and I asked one question. Do you know if it'll bite children? I said, no, this dog wouldn't bite anyone. I said, that's enough. So I drove halfway from Ohio, got the dog, brought it home. It was the nastiest, ugliest, skinniest. And dogs that haven't been eaten enough and have been living on the street, their hair gets wiry. Now, he looks kind of wolfy, like a wolf, like a shepherdy wolf with the ears. And his hair was wiry like a pig's. You ever see hair on a pig? It didn't look good. And there was bugs all over him. And he was skinny. You could play the xylophone on his ribs. And he was the same size as my other dog in height. He wouldn't let you near him. He wouldn't bite, but he was very scary. And he was helpless and harassed. And he learned to live on the street. So it's not like a sheep. A dog, you go try to take care of a helpless and harassed dog, it wants to go hide. It's afraid of you. The other dog would steal its food. He knew, push this one around. So I had to do a lot of work with that rescue dog, a lot more than the fake rescue dog, which was kind of fat and had shots and all this stuff. I had to get him all kinds of shots. I had to get him a bunch of dewormers so he can get all that crap out of there. You see him today, he's still got a little bit of that. I had to survive for myself in him. But for the most part, you can't tell the difference. Years have gone by. It took about 1 year to 2 years for his coat to come back. He's doing great. It's a lot of work. He didn't want me to help. He didn't want me to help. He was like, these people took me from Ohio. I don't know where that is. I don't know why they kidnapped me. Now I'm with you. People ain't going to walk up to you and go, hi, I'm helpless and harassed. I'm like a little sheep without a shepherd. could you please salve my spiritual wounds with the gospel and read me a nice Bible story? They don't do that. They say, I don't believe in God. Leave me alone. They will bite you sometimes, like an Indian dog. You can't tell. Dogs without owners growl. They growl a lot, even if they're not biters. They're trying to get you to get it. People hide it better than dogs, but they're just as battered and hurting and helpless. And you and I have the good news that Jesus Christ is God, and he came to earth to save those people. And you have something called the good news or the gospel, and it is the power of God to salvation. I am not ashamed of the gospel, a message, because it is the power. You have that power in your mind. You have the Holy Spirit in your heart. You can literally reach out to, I don't care how far gone you think they are. The declaration of Christ's love for them is sufficient to deworm their soul and fill out their coat. It's the power that got you. Maybe someone here today, you're like, well, I guess I'm one of those friends you told them to drag to church. Well, I'm glad you're here. I got good news for you. You're sitting around a bunch of sheep who were helpless and harassed, beaten and bullied or whatever. We all have one shepherd now, and he's good. And he won't make a wimp out of you if you're a man. He won't take advantage of you if you're a woman. He died for your sins. He loves you. And if you call on him, he'll save you. Second thing to remember is we need to pray. Talk about an easy application for a sermon. Jesus gave it. Beseech. Don't pray beseech. Beseech God. Have a time of beseeching. Right? Fasting and beseeching. I was having my beseeching time. Beseech the Lord. Pray. Pray. My phone is going off at 1:08 every day. I said it. It always surprises me. I'll be sitting there, and I only use rock and roll songs for my ringtones and alarms because I'm an American, and from the 70s or 60s, and then just at 1:08, no matter what I'm doing, I'm like, wow, what the heck is that? Oh, pray. 1:08 for Acts 1:8, for Mission 1:8. And I just, no matter what I'm doing, I stop, say a quick prayer, asking God to send up more laborers in the harvest. If I have longer, I add more stuff. I'm inviting you to join me in that, 1:08. But even all the time. Heck, you go to a church that's called Harvest. We can't let our name down. I think you got what I'm trying to say. I'm going to pray. Remain seated because I got something more to tell you after I pray. Father in heaven, I thank you for this beautiful teaching of Jesus. It's so short, but it hits right to our hearts. And you were looking at people who were just like us, and you didn't condemn them and say, boy, look at these sinners. I can't wait to throw them in hell. But you had compassion. You saw our needs. And you took our guilt and our sin on yourself and took it away. And you give us life and health. And you give us a very simple message that you call the gospel. And a simple means of delivering it. We have a love delivery. That's it. A friendship delivery. That's it. And through that, you save other people. Please use Harvest Church to get that done. Amen.